Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today I'm going to go over an article. It's about the housing market. Maybe I'll answer another question because some people had some questions on the home builders and why they're underperforming. And I'm going to kind of go into this, give this guy's opinion. It is spot on, in my opinion. The person who, maybe not who wrote this, well, who wrote it too, but the person who they were interviewing is spot on. 100%. I completely agree with them. He's a expert in the home building business, and he gives his opinion in it. So I want to go over with everybody what his opinion is. It mirrors mine almost 100%. So here we go, guys. The article says there's never been such a severe shortage of homes in the U.S. Here's why. And this is March 29th. It was just released. I was going through here. I'm going to read through this. There's so many good things through here. It says Emerson Klaus, this is the person who I think is really good, has been building houses for 45 years, but he has never faced delays like he is now trying to get basic building materials. I had a client ask me to add a door. He says at a job site outside Boston. We just waited 6 months to get it. That's a door in a frame. Klaus says, exasperated. That's kind of crazy. He says appliances can be even worse. A dishwasher, if you can find the model you want right now, you might wait a year for it. By one estimate, the U.S. is more than 3 million homes short of the demand from would-be home buyers. Pandemic-related supply chain problems aren't helping. They're adding tens of thousands of dollars in costs to the typical house. But the roots of the problem go back much further, to the housing bubble collapse in 2008. That's what I like about this guy. He's going back to the root cause, not this, oh, we'll just blame it on the medical event. So he goes, what I call a bloodbath happened, says Klaus. It was the worst housing market crash since the Great Depression. Many home builders went out of business. Klaus was building houses in Florida when the bottom fell out. A lot of my tradespeople found other work, went and got retrained for new jobs in law enforcement, all sorts of other jobs, says Klaus. So the workforce was somewhat decimated. A few years later, as Americans started buying more homes again, building stayed below normal, and that slump in building continued for more than a decade. Meanwhile, the largest generation, the millennials, started to settle down and buy houses. And that's the main reason we've ended up millions of homes short. Builders for many years just weren't building enough to keep up with the demand. That lack of supply has pushed home prices to record levels, up nearly 20% last year alone. Gradually, though, many home building companies recovered. Klaus is now the president of the Home Builders and Remodelers Association of Massachusetts. Before COVID hit, he had a crew of 9 full-time workers again. That's not counting the many subcontractor electrician, roofing, and plumbing companies he works on homes with. We always need guys, says Renee. I don't want to say her last name, Klaus's foreman. He's originally from El Salvador, and for the past 10 years, he has helped Klaus and other local builders find a lot of workers to hire and train. I've been bringing guys to companies, like maybe 200 guys in my whole construction experience. But then the pandemic hit, things shut down, and some of those workers left. Now, with unemployment so low, he can't find people to hire like he used to. It's a lot harder, he says. They've been finding other work. Klaus says that it's made it more difficult for builders to respond to the surge in demand for homes during the pandemic. If I had twice as many guys, I would still not have enough, says Klaus, who now has 5 employees. And my subcontractors, they're all hurting for people. There's another very big roadblock to home construction. Land, says Klaus. I just was trying to buy a piece of land to build 5 homes on. Unfortunately, that land went to someone else that may put 1 or 2 on it. Klaus says he wants to build more attached townhouse or smaller homes on less land. That's what many first-time homebuyers can afford to buy, but in many places, zoning rules won't let you buy land and divide it up. You can only build one house with a big yard. Overly restrictive zoning is a big problem nationally, says Robert Dietz, the chief economist. In certain neighborhoods, you simply cannot build townhomes. You have to build single-family units on lots that are bigger than the market wants, Dietz says. That is not a free market choice. It's a government-imposed rule. He says that in many parts of the country, the classic NIMBY, not my backyard opposition, stops higher density units from being built. Existing homeowners who don't want more traffic or more homes in their neighborhood keep what he says are outdated, exclusionary zoning rules in place. So to make a profit, builders like Klaus are left doing renovations or teardowns, buying an older home, knocking it down, and building a bigger, more expensive new home. We are seeing a lot of knockdowns, Klaus says, but it doesn't add to the housing stock. You're replacing something, you're not adding to it. So the net effect isn't the best. Changing in zoning can make a big difference. Some states and towns have been changing the rules to allow in-law rental apartments to be built onto existing houses. They are called accessory dwelling units. 20% of remodelers indicate that last year they've undertaken an ADU project, and typical one can cost anywhere between $100,000 and $200,000. That's good for the supply of rental housing, which is also very tight. But Dietz says we also need a lot more homes for people to buy. That could be a townhouse, he says. That it could be a single-family detached home on a small lot that's roughly 1,800 to 2,100 square feet. That's appropriate for effectively a newly married couple that's moving out of their first apartment and getting into their first rung of home ownership. Right now, Klaus says that because of the restrictive zoning rules, he doesn't have any new home projects lined up that will put a house like that in place. There wasn't a home already. So that's what we've got. And just to sum it up, I think the home builders are struggling because they can't close the houses. That's one of my intuitions, though, and it's a struggle with the supply chain. That's what we were reading through this article. Also, if it were me, and I'm just going to share my opinion here, why not? If I bought a house and I paid a lot of money for a house, and they're going to put a bunch of townhouses all around it, I wouldn't want that either. It would impact me, and I would not want that in my backyard. I don't want it. I would agree with that. And they're doing that, and I see it in a lot of different areas where I grew up, where they're just throwing up these massive like apartment buildings and stuff, and they look way out of place for where they're putting them. They kind of just plunk them down right into like where these old areas are at, and it just looks out of place to me. It's like, why don't you move that somewhere where it fits within the environment and the background? You just don't put it in the middle of nowhere and make it 3 or 4 stories high where there's no other 3 or 4 story high buildings. It just seems out of place to me. But that's my opinion there. I know some people can disagree with it. That's fine. But yeah, I wouldn't want it in my area either. Usually with lower cost housing too, you get different types of people to move in. So I wouldn't want it from that perspective as well. There's a reason that certain people buy certain areas, and that's kind of the way that I view certain things. But yeah, and here's another lesson that I've learned throughout investing and stuff. Sometimes buying, like you could have a very strong market in something, and sometimes buying the mining companies isn't the best play. And that's what I found out last bull market in the precious metals area. I came in 2004, and that's when the gold mining and silver miners had peaked and gone down against the physical metals. Luckily, I'd been purchasing a lot more physical metals than the mining companies, but I did still purchase some mining companies, and they did not outperform the metal itself. They underperformed it. Now, some did outperform it, others underperformed it. Something like an ETF like GDX. So be careful when you're buying and how you're buying it. That's one thing. And I know I'm kind of swapping back and forth here. Another thing, and I know it's about this. It hit a chord with me. This putting up townhouse and putting all this stuff up. There's reasons that people buy certain areas. There's exact reasons. Like I chose an area that has a school where I'm at, and I'm not paying through my taxes for the school for other people to go to it either. So I like things to be kind of segregated for the area that's paying for it. So I'm not necessarily for open public. I'm for public schooling, but you also want the money that you're putting into something to go to the kids that live in the area that money's going towards. The open enrollment type movements I've seen ruin my old school back when I was where I live in Minnesota. So that did not work very well. And all the people that are living there now, the kids, you're going to have to go to a different school to avoid some of the problems that they have now at that school with the open enrollment that they've got. So I just wanted to throw that in there, give you my little opinion there. Yeah, that's some of the things here, and sometimes it doesn't work out where the builders don't make more money because they're having problems. That's one of the opinions there. I don't own a whole bunch in home builders. I own a little bit, but I own like KB Homes, LGI Homes, and Hovnanian, a little bit in that. Yeah, I own a little bit in all those, and I'm just holding on, guys. And hopefully they bounce back here. I know they've been in a little bit of a downtrend. In fact, let's pull up some of the charts. I can show you what they are real quick in Trading View. So it's coming on up. It's stuck on New Hope. Scrolling on down to the home builders. And here we go. So here's KB Homes. KB Homes is kind of popping out to the downside here on this big pattern. Here, I'm going to go logarithmic. There's logarithmic. There's non-logarithmic. But they are pulling on back. They're probably having some problems with home costs. Their margins might be compressing as well. With supply shortages, yeah, they're having some problems. MDC Holdings, it's coming on back down. It is moving to the downside. I do think that we are going to build more new homes in the future. They need to resolve the problems with the supply chain. This one's MTH, Meritage Homes Corporation. That is pulling on back, doing a retest move, it looks like. Potential retest move. Tri-Point Homes, a breakout. Maybe we get a return move here with the supply chain problems. And then a move higher potentially later. Cavco, I don't know too much about that one. This is Skyline Champion. Again, this is a big old breakout. It's doing, it hit its head. It's doing a return move. It might actually be a decent time to be looking at it soon if it finds support here. LEGH, Legacy Housing Corporation. This guy's doing a return move to its support line. We'll see if that support line holds. Leonard Corp. This guy's moving on down. And we've had a big old break. And it looks like we're going to do a retest move, maybe all the way back to $60-something, $70. And then probably a launch higher again. But that's the big move up and then the pullback. XHB is the Spider Series Trust Home Builders ETF. That's had a launch pattern here where it launched higher. We're pulling on back for a return move, and I would be a buyer in this return move here. HOV, if we get low enough here, guys, if we get back down to some really low levels, I am going to buy it. Some more of it. It looks like we're coming on back. We're still in pullback mode. I wouldn't buy it yet. Toll Brothers is pulling on back. That one has had, that's logarithmic there. It's moved on up. It's broken to the upside. Now we're getting this nice pullback. We're still in pullback mode. We got to get some support here. And then LGI Homes is another one. That's what it looks like. We broke out to the top side, and then we're pulling on back. We could pull back all the way to the bottom here of $63, $65. Coming on back here. So we could have a lot more downside left to get back to this lower channel. If we get back to the lower channel, then I would say, hey, let's look at it. I haven't sold anything of mine. It's not a huge holding. Maybe I'll make it a huge holding in the future. This is, if you look kind of going sideways, is at a little bit of support right where it's at. We'll see if it gets that support. But that's what I've got for today, guys. That's what I've got. Yeah, I'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.